All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another live stream of Jesus Talks. I am your host, Dari, and I'm very, very excited to be here with you guys today. It's been a while since I've done a live stream, so that's also very exciting. But for today, I wanted to introduce a very special guest and a very special topic that has never been talked about on this channel before. But a lot of you guys have actually been requesting me to do this, so I decided to bring in a lot of you guys might know as Pro Life Chloe. And as you guys can guess by her name, we're going to be talking about the pro life movement. We're going to be talking about abortion. Why is it wrong? Why do we as Catholics, why are we against abortion? How can we become better advocates, whether you're male or female? And just the importance, what happens during an abortion as well. A lot of us are probably curious to see like this just being broken down. So I'm very excited to be here with you guys today. And God bless. And I hope you guys enjoy this conversation. But let's give a warm welcome to our sister, Chloe. Chloe, you're muted right now, but just
Hello. Hi. I'm very glad to be here. Thank you, Ari, for the invite. It's going to be fun.
it's good. It is. I'm very, very excited to jump into this topic because, like I said, not that many people talk about it. People seem to be just frightened, and one of the main things I hear is, well, abortion is it's healthcare. It's not that bad like the people make it seem,
hmm
and so therefore people should just mind their business, and we should just la di do with this entire topic. But that's not how it works. But before we dig into that, I would like to kind of just dive into who you are, Chloe. Why are you passionate about the pro life movement? What, like, who you are, what do you do for this movement, and just what got you started.
Yeah, sure. So, um, the first when someone like asked me about myself, kind of an introduction, right after my name, I like to say that I'm what's known as a Maronite Catholic. So, I grew up within Christianity. I was baptized as an infant into the Maronite Catholic Church, which stems from Syria and Lebanon. And I was raised Protestant, so I was a Protestant for a good number of years of my life. And then a while back, I ended up reverting about 4 or 5 years ago, reverting back to the Catholic faith. So I'm a Maronite revert, and it's been the best so far. Kind of why I got into the pro life movement. It started when I was in high school. I was a junior in high school, and I took an anatomy and physiology class, and I fell in love with it. For the longest time, I wanted to become an OBGYN. I wanted to deliver babies. I wanted to be around families and mothers and newborns and children. That's just always been my passion. I loved helping others. I loved serving others. And then the same year, when I was in my junior year, is also when the movie Unplanned came out, with Abby Johnson and her story, and with Planned Parenthood and stuff like that. So that's kind of like what sparked it and what introduced me to the topic of abortion and what it is. So ever since then, over 5 years now, like maybe 6 or 7 years, I've been in the pro life movement. I've been advocating, maybe like 4 or 5 years on YouTube, advocating and creating content and talking with people and all that stuff. So, um, yeah, it's a little bit about me.
And I also found out that you wrote a book actually called Unapologetically Pro Life. So can you kind of give us a little bit of a rundown of what that book's about, and what got you to actually want to write about it? Because obviously we know that you're a content creator, that you make a lot of all these different videos to bring awareness into the pro life movement. So what got you to be like, you know what, I'm gonna write a whole book about this?
Yeah, so I actually started off with the title. I didn't know in what direction I wanted to go in, to be completely honest. But I got the title from, there was a tweet that the Women's March had made back in 2023, early 2023. And it said, "We're not just pro choice, we're unapologetically pro abortion." And I remember screenshotting and saving that tweet because I was like, this is what we've been saying. Like we say you guys are pro-abortion. So that's what inspired the title Unapologetically Pro-Life. And then I was just like, all right, I have the title. Now what direction do I want to take this? And then I was just kind of like, we can make it in a like kind of like what Trent Horn has as well, like an apologetic book. But there's also like new arguments that were coming up, new scenarios that the pro-choice people were giving and saying, like, for example, the violinist argument. That's something Trent Horn probably would not have faced. So I've responded to that. I've given the basic biological facts and kind of took it from that perspective and explaining and also attacking uh, so-called Catholics that believe in the pro-choice movement. I've made a chapter on that as well, and just anything that I felt I wanted in a book.
And so I guess let's kind of dive deep into it. So for somebody that's listening, can you explain what is an abortion and what goes on?
Yeah, so there's different types of abortion depending on how far along a woman is in her pregnancy. First trimester, second trimester, and third trimester, they would go anywhere from an abortion pill, misoprostone and mifepristone, which basically would stop the heart of the baby. The first pill stops the heart of the baby, and then the second pill that they take is what causes the uterus to contract and then expel the baby, and it's actually very, very painful. Causes lots of bleeding, causes lots of contractions and pains, and at the end of the day, you're delivering a dead child. Second trimester abortions, they would go in and use a catheter, and they would suction out all of the amniotic fluid, and they would go in and they would pull, like use forceps, and they would pull limbs. They would crush the head of the skull, and make sure that's how they know it's the baby's dead, is when white stuff would come out, and that's how they know that's the brain, it's the baby's dead. And then they would go in and they would clean the uterus out to make sure no part of the baby is there, make sure the placenta's out. If they leave it in there, it can cause a very bad infection. And third trimester abortion, basically they would do the same thing but with on a larger scale, or deliver and end up delivering a dead baby. So it's very traumatic. Once people actually understand what they're advocating for, you're advocating for stopping the heartbeat, you're advocating for tearing limb from limb, you're advocating for all of these things. So yeah.
Okay, and then so biologically speaking, what is the baby in a womb? And then the other one would be, why do you think abortion is almost never explained how it actually goes?
Yeah, the unborn baby in the womb, that was a question, right?
Mm-hmm.
The unborn baby in the womb is a human being, because scientifically speaking, we know that we reproduce after our own kind. So a human being can never reproduce like a horse or something else. We can only reproduce human beings because we're human beings. So people would try to degrade the human being and say, "Oh, it's not a human being yet," when reality says it is. And an abortion is, they would call it a medical procedure, but the medical procedure is also, the goal of it is to end the life of one of its patients. So an abortion, and I'm not afraid to say this, and I know Abby Johnson, coming back from the March for Life, has also said this. I'm never afraid to say that abortion is murder. Like, and I've always said that. I have it on my, I wear it, right? Abortion is murder. And that's something I'm not afraid to say. I'm not afraid to tell anybody.
And then, so let's go into the most common pro-choice arguments. This is like the most popular ones that I've heard, and I'm actually very curious to hear what you have to say about this. So the most common argument we hear is, my body, my choice. So what is the problem with that statement?
Yeah, I think one, and I'm also, this is specifically for the Catholic and Orthodox crowd. I think it's a very blasphemous thing, trying to mock, imitate the Eucharist when Christ says, "This is my body, which I have given up for you." Um, and then something that is sacrifice, the Lord is being sacrificed for us on our behalf. They're taking this wording and saying now it's a selfish thing. Now it's my body, therefore it's my choice. I can decide to do whatever I want with it, even to the point of sacrificing not myself, but someone else, someone completely different from me, another entity, another human being for me, to to have my selfish gain. So the my body my choice argument doesn't really work because and we can talk about this further down the road as well. The baby has its own DNA. It has its own unique DNA, and they'll say, "Well, it's in my uterus, therefore it's a part of me." Well, no, because your kidney or a lung or your heart is you, because it's not separate from you. You need these things to survive. The baby in the womb is going to develop its own heart. Are you going to say that you have two hearts, four lungs, and 20 fingers and 20 toes? And if it's a boy, you're going to say you have male genitalia? Like, no, you're never going to say that. You're going to say the baby has hands. The baby has its own heartbeat. The baby has lungs and stuff like that. So there is a distinction. Just because you are inside of something, it doesn't make you property of that thing.
Because I hear a lot. I think with that specific argument, that's an argument that I heard a lot growing up. Well, it's my body, it's my choice, because it's like, therefore I can do whatever I want with it. Like, they're not even, and this goes into our next argument. People say that it's just a clump of cells, and people say, like, well, it's healthcare. So what's wrong with those two statements as well? With saying it's just a clump of cells and that abortion is healthcare. Why are we so pressed upon the fact, that this is wrong? So
Yeah, so we're all a clump of cells from the moment of conception to the moment of natural death. And that's just a clump of, like, I'm a clump of cells as well. So my question would be, like, what's the difference between a clump of cells in the womb versus me and versus you? Do you think someone, because I'm a clump of cells, has the right to come and take my life? They would say, well, no. I'll say, but I'm just like them. You can call me a clump of cells and it would be accurate, because the most basic unit of human life is a cell. So even a single cell human being, an embryo, is alive, it's human. So that doesn't really matter to them, which they'll usually end up changing the argument to it being my body, my choice, or location. And then we can have fun and we can go from there. And it's never just a consistent thing to say, this is the argument, this is why I'm sticking to it, this is why I'm pro choice. Because when you go with them and you go with their logic and their consistency, everything falls apart.
And then this one, I know this one I had it written down, but I'm actually curious about this. I've heard people say that that we're only looking at this from a religious aspect of it, because it looks like, or I've heard the argument that, like, well, the pro-life movement, it's mainly just Christians, so therefore that doesn't really count, because what about, like, non-secular arguments? So what would you say when it comes to that? Like, people who are claiming that the pro-life movement is only Christian, and therefore anybody else that's not Christian, it doesn't matter.
Well, for the longest time, universities and colleges were just Christian. They were run by Catholics. Hospitals were just Christian. They were run by the Catholic Church. So again, consistency. Or you're going to be like, okay, if the pro-life movement is just a Christian movement, then why do you go to hospitals? Why are you okay with going to university and colleges when it was founded by Christians? We started these things, and then it's inconsistency. But after they concede to that, it's because they have to, because we did start these things. Um, then we'd be like, there's pro-life atheists, there's pro-life people based on just the scientific fact alone. So I don't have to argue from a religious standpoint to know that killing somebody is wrong. You know what I mean? I give you the scientific facts. I work with pro-life atheists who absolutely do not believe in God, but they're still pro-life for the mere fact that saying, yeah, it doesn't matter if you're in the womb or outside the womb. Now they can't justify it. As a Christian, I can justify why killing someone is wrong, why abortion is wrong. They can't. But religion is just my justification, and you're able to measure my moral stand, my morality from it. But science isn't a religious thing. Science actually just agrees, ended up catching up to our religion, to my beliefs, to my church, and saying, yeah, you know what, we agree. It is a life from the moment of conception.
And then the next one is, what about the extreme cases? People like to say, well, okay, you say that abortion is wrong, but what about in the case of, where somebody unfortunately abuses you sexually and you end up having a child? Why should they be forced to carry that baby? And then I've also heard people say, like, well, you can also just give it up for adoption. But then there's people that also argue, well, you realize that not everybody gets adopted. A lot of those adoptions, like, they don't ever go through. They're very full. So it's like, why add more onto that? So why not just go ahead and just kill the baby?
Yeah. Two wrongs never make a right. And they don't really care for the woman at all. It's just one of the facades, because Planned Parenthood, the number one abortion provider, makes lots and lots of money off of abortions. That's the number one thing they need in order to stay open. That's why people will tell you, no, it's not. They provide other things. Sure, they can provide other things. But when when Roe versus Wade in 2022 was overturned, thousands of Planned Parenthood clinics that performed abortions were shut down because their other things don't make enough money. They shut down because the state said, we don't want abortion in our state anymore, all of the conservative states, and they shut down because you can't perform abortions, we can't stay open. So they are in it for the money. They don't care about women. They don't care about the choice of the women. They care about their pockets. When we talk about this sexual abuse, or when we talk about a woman conceiving through rape, and then you're gonna the mindset of putting the punishment of the sins of the father on a child, does never made sense to me. As much as, yes, we are sympathetic to the mother, and we agree that these circumstances, this was a sin done to her and to her body, and it should never happen. We agree that the father should be put away and in solitary confinement for the rest of his life. That doesn't mean that the child, who didn't have a say on how they were conceived, gets the death penalty as well. When you wouldn't even give the father the death penalty. So someone else is paying for the sins of another person, when the only person who could do that was Christ. A baby can't pay for the sins of the father. You don't give the death penalty to the rapist. So why are we doing that to an unborn child? And then on top of that, the rape being the first act of trauma to the mother, something that wasn't preventable. Why on earth would we go and advocate for a second act of trauma to be done unto the woman, when abortion is not a natural thing? Birth is natural. But to go in and to advocate for, get rid of the baby because of the situation the baby was conceived, instead of supporting the mother and the child and offering help and offering counseling, we're going to say, you know what? We're going to forcefully open your uterus, forcefully dilate you. And a lot of the times, abortion causes infertility because of the way it pokes and pries and opens the uterus and damages the uterus. And years from now, if the mother wants to have a baby, she can't, because abortion has done damage to the uterus. So it's a lose-lose for the actual woman and for the child, but it's a win-win for the rapist, because now he has no responsibility for the child, no child support. There's no evidence, no proof that this happened. And who else is winning? Planned Parenthood. They're making thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars a day. So it's never a win-win. When in terms of adoption, there is no newborn baby in the adoption care system. Um, it's people, newborn babies. People always want newborn babies, and guess what? It's Christians. It's the Christian. It's Christianity that adopts. So there is no newborn baby. There's actually a wait list to get newborn babies, and they're usually, if a baby is put up for adoption, it's taken very, very fast. A lot of times before it's even born, they already have the papers going and stuff like that. To which then I like to steel man. Yeah, exactly, Nina. I like to steel man the other side's position because I've heard it so much, right? The other side would say, well, what about the other kids in foster care system? If you're pro-life, blah blah blah. It goes completely off topic, but sure. Let's do this. I agree with you. This adoption care system is hard to get into. People abuse the foster care system and all this stuff. I agree. So let's defund Planned Parenthood and put that money into helping the foster care and the adoption care system. I agree. Let's work together here. Let's fix the system and get rid of abortion at the same time.
So what about? So I'm gonna press you a little bit on this one. What about the people that say even if you ban abortion or you defund Planned Parenthood, that won't stop abortions from still occurring? In fact, it's still unsafe either way. So like, what's the point of banning abortion? What's the point of defunding Planned Parenthood? People are still going to do it whether it's legal or illegal.
In no state that they've banned abortion is there back alley abortions. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Um, I would ask for statistics. I would ask for proof of that, because we're not just here to spew out false rhetoric. If I'm bringing proof and I'm bringing evidence and I'm bringing the science of it and I'm bringing better ideas than to just come and complain about hypothetical situations, then let's talk about something real, something that's tangible. Because unless you show me a back alley clinic in Tennessee or in Arkansas or anywhere in the Bible Baptist Belt where they banned abortion, the only thing they have good there, by the way, is that they banned abortion in the Bible Belt. Then we'll talk.
Okay. Oh man, oh man. Yeah, I know some of these claims are wild. And to be very clear, and I did say this off camera, guys. I was very, 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 very ignorant for so many years, thinking that abortion was okay. And this was even me, still as a practicing Catholic. I thought that was okay. I thought voting for it was okay. I didn't know it was bad. I didn't know it was wrong. I did confess, by the way, so I just want to make that very clear. I did confess that. So obviously, I'm trying to inform myself of this topic, which is good to have Chloe here because this also helps as well. So I just want to make that very clear because it is very common for people to say, "Oh, you can be pro-life and you can be Catholic." That's actually going to be my next argument. What do you say to people who say you can be Christian and you can still be pro-choice? You can be Catholic, you can be pro-choice. It doesn't matter. Like, you're still good. What would you say to that?
Um, Catechism of the Catholic Church 770. Catechism of the Catholic 27275 says otherwise. 1700 to 1706 says otherwise. Scripture says otherwise. The Didache says otherwise. So, no, you can't.
I love how you just started quoting it. You're just like, well, actually,
how much I've read it. I'm like, no, you can't.
No, I mean, I love that. I love that. Hey, props to you, girl. My next question would be, so I know we talked about this. So what are some of the effects that women experience after abortion that people don't talk about enough?
Yeah, depression, um, suicidal thoughts, infertility, and it's a lot of the time it's because Planned Parenthood does not offer post-abortive counseling. It is a traumatic thing to go through. Um, one day knowing that you're pregnant, having a baby, and then the next minute you are not. It's like even just hormonal wise, your HCG levels, which is when you take a pregnancy test, the HCG hormone is what makes the second line appear, indicating pregnancy. Um, in the majority of the cases, there are cases that it would be a positive, it would be a false pregnancy test, but the majority of the time, that hormone is what indicates pregnancy. Um, so you go from your body preparing itself to hold a pregnancy and to grow a child, and then in a split second, you're no longer pregnant anymore. And but you still have all of these hormones. Your body wasn't expecting to not be pregnant anymore. Your body was preparing 9 months, literally 9 months, with everything, and then nothing. So it's it's a huge roller coaster. It's a whole shock to the body. Um, so those are some of the effects, and yeah, very very dangerous.
And then I guess this one actually comes from me. I've noticed that maybe I'm wrong, but I've noticed that there's a large majority of women who are in the pro-life movement. There are some men out there. So I guess my question is, how can men and women be better activists when it comes to the pro-life movement, especially for men? Because
Yeah.
I've noticed and I've spoken to some men who are scared of speaking up about this topic because of the other side, that they like to tell them, shut up, like you, like this isn't about you, like you have no say about a woman's body and all that stuff. So what would you say to somebody out there?
I'd say who cares what they think. There's always going to be an excuse on why someone shouldn't speak truth in these people's minds. Um, if you're a guy, they would say you're not a female, you can't speak of it. They've told me, well, have you ever been pregnant? If you haven't experienced pregnancy, you can't speak on abortion. And then if a woman does experience pregnancy, they would be like, well, have were you ever have experienced pregnancy and have given birth, have had children before? They would say, oh, but you were never in the situation where you were desperate and you didn't want to have a child. And so, like, no matter what, you can fit all of these scenarios. You can be like, I've gotten pregnant through rape, and I kept my child, and I'm still pro life. You know what I mean? And then I've literally heard them tell people who've been in that scenario and chose life and have had their kids, they'd be like, well, I'm glad it worked out for you, but it's not going to work out. It might not work out for somebody else. So no matter what scenario, no matter what situation you're in, they're never going to be happy. This demonic cult mindset is never going to be like, you know what, fine. So who cares if they say no uterus, no opinion? That was like the catchphrase that they've said. Um, Nothing's ever going to satisfy them. So they'll be like, you're a man. Okay, but you still need a man to get pregnant. A woman can't get pregnant by herself. Two women can't get pregnant. You know, this is why we say like homosexuality is not, it's not a natural thing. You can't conceive and have a child. The man is still involved within the reproductive stage. The man is needed just as much as a woman is needed. So, men, you have a say, and don't let anybody take the voice.
That's what my friend Joe says here. Men absolutely have a say, and we need to speak up against it. It's as much part of the man as it is the woman. It takes the sperm and the egg. Both parties should have a say. So, yeah, we agree with you, Joe. Um, but
Exactly.
but yeah, because I mean, I've heard a lot about that, and it really does bewilder me when people say that. Like, when people try to shush men from speaking up about it, it does sadden me. And yes, I've actually heard that too, where people who've chosen to still continue on with the birth of their child and not go through with an abortion where they're kind of shunned away. So I think my next question would be for you is so how does an abortion affect families? Like, what is the impact on just the family as a whole?
Yeah. So when we talk about as a family, especially on the mother, even after birth, the DNA of the child, whether she gave birth to it, aborted it, or miscarried it, something happened naturally in the womb, the DNA of the baby, which is really cool fact, I just learned this by the way, is still always within the mother. So you're always still carrying, if you had one child or 19 kids plus, you still have the DNA of all of your children in the womb. No matter if you're pregnant, period, you would always carry the DNA with you until your death. And that's a big thing, I mean, to also have your child's DNA within you. So definitely emotionally, no matter how the baby is born, dead, alive, miscarried, it's always going to be there. The baby's always going to be a part of the picture. Even your grandma has DNA. Yeah, Nina. It's really cool. It was a really fascinating fact. I was like, oh, that's kind of sweet. So if you've never been pregnant before, enjoy only having your DNA. Do it until you cannot anymore. It leaves a hole to make it concise. It leaves a hole. It's someone who should have been in the family is missing. Just like when we bury someone we love, we bury someone in an abortion, we lost part of us. We lost our family. So, yeah.
And then this is what my friend Joe said. He said, "The fact of a mother always carrying the DNA has brought peace and comfort when my wife miscarried both of our children." So so you are saying that even if they go through a miscarriage, they still carry on that DNA. That's beautiful. Oh my goodness. That is so cool.
I went and I told my mom. I was like, you still have part of my DNA in you. She's like, "Aw."
Like that is so cute. That's so cute.
Yeah.
I mean, what a beautiful God that He allows that. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. 100%.
I mean, our God allows that. Like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. I need to share with my mother because I know my mother also had 2 miscarriages as well, and and I think that will bring a lot of comfort for her too, knowing that she's maybe, who knows, but hopefully that does. My next question would be so why do you think that abortion is considered empowerment nowadays in society?
A lot of times it's because we think empowerment means playing God. This is why the church is also against something like IVF, artificially creating life. Because whether you're creating life or destroying life, you're playing God. And I'm reminded of the story of the Tower of Babel in Scripture in the Old Testament, where they said, we could build to be like God, and they wanted this empowerment because God is so up high. We're gonna reach being up so up high to reach God, and that gave them the energy and the strength to and the motivation to do that. So I think it's the same thing when we believe this illusion that we have power and we have control, supposed control over our bodies. And when we don't have the mindset, especially as Christians in Christianity, we have the mindset of being the temple of the Holy Spirit. My body is used for God, and in the context of a marriage, even within the context of a Christian marriage, my body belongs to my husband. My husband's body belongs to me. It's never a selfish thing. It's mine. It's mine. I can do what I want. It's always we're giving ourselves up for the other. Our body, our property is never our own. It's the temple of the Holy Spirit. And when we get married, if God calls us to the vocation of marriage, our bodies are for our spouse and vice versa. So mindset really does play a huge part in this.
I think our society is so obsessed with control that that's why I think maybe that's also why they justify, you know, stuff like abortion specifically. Yeah, I think it's really sad. I think you're right. I mean, they try to play the role of God. I guess I never really thought about that. That's pretty.
Yeah, everything is contradictory to the gospel. If in any conversation between light and evil, just know if you're ever on the fence of which one should I choose, look back at the gospel, look at Jesus. You know, what did Jesus do? He gave his body, his life for us. What does the world say? It's your body. You don't owe anybody anything.
Yeah. And I think my next one would be, let's see. What advice would you give to somebody who's maybe listening and who are maybe considering abortion? And let's say they're not a Christian, they're a non-believer.
Yeah. Go to ultrasound appointments. Um, contact crisis pregnancy centers. We're here to help. We have resources. There's other options that don't involve taking the life of your unborn child, don't involve having blood on your hands. And just do research on what an abortion is. And if you need to reach out to someone, you can reach out through me. You can always find my my contact info on descriptions on my through Instagram, through email, anything like that. I work with many pro-life agencies, Live Action. I started working with Plan, which is Pro-Life Advocacy Network. I write for them. We have resources there to help you as well. So there's the abortion is never an option. Never has to be an option because there are pro-life nonprofit organizations there to help you.
And then my friend Joe has a question. Can you explain the importance of NFP, natural family planning, and abstinence within marriage, and how it ties into being open to life, but the couple may not be ready to create a new life?
Yeah, so the church teaches against contraception, which is where they teach natural family planning. So being intimate outside of the period, if you're not ready for kids just yet, we don't believe in contraception, being Catholics. So being intimate on the days where there's not a window to conceive, that's basically natural family planning. Abstinence is just, I don't know, people are become abstinent. It's a lot of popularity within Lent. Married couples don't are not intimate the month and a half of Lent. Um, open so you are open to life, and especially a lot of people when they try to conceive, they're intimate within that certain window. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it happens, but the mindset is that it's never stopped. So even, you know, if a woman accidentally gets pregnant outside of her window, something happens, she didn't track it right, whatever, you're still, because of your beliefs and because of what the church teaches, you still say it's a child and God blessed us with this gift. So yeah, that's how natural family planning is done.
If any of you guys have any other questions, please feel free to drop them down in the comments as well about this important topic. It's really cool that we have you here to be able to explain all this stuff for us. Obviously, it's really sad, the topic of abortion, but I think in the way that we're addressing this, it's nice to be able to find people who are being able to speak about it and they're not afraid to speak about it. So, what I guess the big $1,000,000 question is, what can we do to become better activists other than just social media? Because we see that a lot of people on social media, they like to share videos and all stuff, and I think that's very cool. But is there anything that we can do maybe within the communities to be able to help support the pro-life movement?
Yeah. Education, I think, is a big thing. Talking about it too with people, and keeping it in the forefront of people's minds and just having to remind people and breaking down the lies that the pro-abortion movement tries to build. And saying, well, that's not true, and here's the truth. Kind of just like reflecting Christ in the situation, just saying, we're firm on this, and we're not going back. So education, definitely. Watching videos is a good thing. Speaking about it, reading about it, and donating, if you guys are able to, donating to people who have their voices out on the internet, donating to pro-life nonprofit organizations so that they're able to help mothers who find themselves between abortion or between choosing life. And that's how we got Roe versus Wade overturned. That was a big step. So continue support that way.
And then for those who aren't familiar, what is Roe versus Wade, and why are we so happy the fact that it got overturned?
Yeah, so Roe versus Wade was in the late 1970s, early 1970s, where Jane Roe, she went under a fake name, and if you read up on it, it's actually like saying she never got an abortion. Jane Roe, the person who was named Roe versus Wade after, never actually had an abortion. It's the craziest story. She would argue that abortion is healthcare, or her lawyer argued that abortion is healthcare and that it should be legal. And that was really the precedent of saying every state in the United States has to have legalized abortion. So that's what came out of it. When Roe versus Wade was in the Supreme Court, and then every state was required to perform abortions, no matter what. Nobody can do that. Once President Trump in 2022 selected pro-life Supreme Court justices, they went back, they reviewed it, and they said, this is unconstitutional, and they reversed it, saying now, instead of it being federally mandatory for all of the states to perform abortions, they dropped it, and they said now it's back to the states. So now it's state by state cases, saying you have the option to say whether or not your state performs abortions or not. And that's why the pro-choice movement, when it happened, they said, oh, now you're going to make women go to New York or to California or to these other Democratic run states in order to get an abortion. They were so mad about it because they lost about 20 something states, conservative states, saying we're having restricted abortions or we're getting rid of it, period. So that's why the overturning of Roe versus Wade was a huge pro-life victory. And now we just have to focus on the blue states that are very, very pro-abortion and would perform abortions up until birth.
Yeah, I mean, what are some of the craziest, I think now, especially in today's society, what are some of the craziest things that you've seen that you're like, why is this still happening? Like, and I guess my next question would be like, do you ever just get tired where you're just like, man, is this really going to go anywhere? Like, sometimes it feels like we're going in the right direction, and then we take like 50 steps back. Yeah. And so it's kind of like an ongoing thing.
Yeah, there's been a lot of times that I can remember and recall going to counteract the Women's March, which is basically the pro-abortion version of the March for Life. Instead of pro-lifers, it's a bunch of pro-choicers marching for what they believe is the right to an abortion. And I remember being on the corner and of one of the government buildings in Washington, D.C. And we had signs, pro-life signs, and we were just standing at the corner. The pro-choice crowd, the peaceful pro-choice crowd, because they're a very, very peaceful crowd. They're saints in the making. Everybody knows this. These saints in the making, alleged, had spray cans. I have no idea where they got their spray cans from. And I remember the color. It was an orange spray can. And women, older women, I was probably 18 at this time. I was 18 years old. I was like high school, college freshman, my first year of college. I remember it, October. It was in October, a month before I turned 19. 18-year-old, and she was like, "How can you effing betray? You're something like you're betraying your gender." This is when we still believe that there's two genders. They still believe there's two genders. Very salty. um, so they said, "How could you betray your gender? How can you go against your own human rights?" And I'm like, "Are you just gonna yell at me, or are we gonna have a conversation about it?" And then she said, "I'm not effing talking to you, you babe, blah blah blah." And then she was trying to spray my sign, my pro-life sign. I went and I moved it like this, and she was still continuing to spray, and it got on my pants. That was fun. And it was orange on my jeans, my pants. So that is the type of people you're gonna see in the pro. Those type of people, it's gonna be so easy to say, you know what, I give up. I want nothing to do with this. And if the thing that keeps me going in this is that God has opened so many opportunities for me to work within the pro life movement, and I enjoy it so much. It's something I'm passionate about. It's something that the Lord has consistently opened pathways for me to work in. I work with my eparchy. I run social media on my in the Eastern churches we call them eparchy, but you guys call them diocese. So in my diocese, in my eparchy / diocese, I'm on the board for the pro life uh, department of the diocese, and I run the social media there. So my bishop approved me to like be able to speak and to talk about it and to just advocate online. Like I got his blessing. It was the coolest thing. So just those types of doors, and then within my social media, I think social media is a huge thing because you get to speak to more people. More people get to see this stuff, and it can go viral any second. The Lord has blessed me to be able to still do social media, make YouTube videos, make TikToks, make all these social media, and run it. That I'm just like, if the Lord shows me one day that pass the torch along to somebody else, um, then I'll do that. But for now, I think that too much is saying you need to be here. You need to be the voice. Because you're right, Ari. Not a lot of people dedicate an entire channel to talking about the pro-life movement and to just educate people on the pro-life movement. So yeah.
I mean, you're even going after some of the songs out there. I know. I saw the one you did on. I saw the one you did on the song "Labor." That one, the girl, I literally was like, oh no. Because keep in mind, like I watch your stuff, and then I saw that you posted a video about that. I was like, oh no, I'm like, I actually like that song. But then when I heard you do that, I'm like, I'll have to listen to it and see what she says. And I was like, dang, she's right. And so that's what I was like, I had to take that song off my playlist. And I was like, oh.
Okay, as long as I'm being a good influence, that's a good thing. I'll take being a good influence. Take it from your Catholic sister.
And I was like, oh man. Now you made me rethink my entire playlist, and I was like, is there any ones I should be waiting? So I went through and I did a whole cleansing. So I was like, look at the effects of listening to Pro Life Chloe. Boom.
Funny.
Oh man. Yeah, I know. It sounds funny, but it's true, guys. Like I didn't know. Okay, because I'm still learning. I'm still like learning about this topic. Like I'm still very very new. So if you would ask me something, I'd be like I don't know. But again, that's why it's important to have these kinds of conversations. My let's see, what will be my next question is. My next question would be, well, first and foremost, I want to make sure the chat doesn't have any questions. If do you guys have any questions for Chloe at all? because if you do, you should drop them down below. I think my next one would be so what would be your strongest non-religious argument for against abortion? Because I know we talked a lot about, because we're Catholics, we talk a lot about the Catholic viewpoint, but let's focus on the non-religious aspects of it.
Yeah.
Why?
I would say, yeah, definitely getting them to see that it's a life. And then a lot of people would say, depends. The smart ones would say, yeah, I grant you it's a life. And then then it would just end up being this subjective thing. Like, okay, it's a life, but I don't give it value until it's sentient, or I don't give it value until it has brain activity. And it's like, when people grant that, then it's just like, okay, but that's, your opinion is based on subjectiveness. And it's like, well, yeah, mine is based on fact. But if I were to say you shouldn't kill a baby, because religion would be a subjective thing as well. So if they're going to end up going into a subjective claim, like it's alive, but it's okay to kill it up until it's sentient, up until it has brain activity, up until it can swap, whatever their standard is, we're going based on their standard. Why isn't it okay to use my standard? But my standard is based on facts. The fact that life begins at conception. If you take a life, you purposely, it's unjustified, premeditated. Abortion fits all of them. Legal, premeditative, killing of someone innocent. That's what murder is defined as. We're using that definition, general definition of murder. Abortion fits it. Why are you okay with the murder of an unborn baby in the womb, but you're not okay with someone who's already born being murdered? That's an inconsistency. Why? Because it's location. So now we're going to argue location. What is so magical about the birth canal? As soon as you exit the birth canal, or you start exiting the birth canal, it grants you the right to life. And then guess where they go? And saying, well, the Bible says life begins at first breath. They're using Genesis 2:7, talking about the creation of Adam. I'm like, are you okay? Honestly. So we're going to go back to this discussion, because we're going to have fun with the scripture. That's reasoning. That's wild.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to bring up the Christian aspect of it, and that's why I wanted to bring the non-Christian aspect to it, because I know there's a lot of people that are like, well, we all about these Christians and yada, but it's a lot to do. But really, it's like, no, there's actually people who don't believe in God, and boom, like they're part of the pro-life movement. So why shouldn't we? You know?
It would end up circling back to morality and religious discussion. That's what everything has. Sometimes I get people where they would come up and they would ask me, why are you pro-life? When you ask someone, why are you pro-life, you're opening the door for me to say, I'm a Christian. I believe that there's a sanctity of life because we're created in the image of God. And then they say, why are you really using religion? You asked me. You said, why are you? Now, if you said, I can go a biological route, and then we could argue for, like, when they have a specific standard that is not conception, when they have, like, yeah, you can kill it because it's not sentient, right? That's the biggest thing. Then you can say why. Like, it's just keep it, like, why does sentience matter? And just keep pushing them to get there. Like, okay, but why does sentience matter to you? Because you wouldn't say it's okay to go and unplug someone that's in a coma, right? Because they lost sentience. And then they would say, well, they had previous sentience. Okay, so why does what is it about sentience or having previous sentience make it something to be able to defend? Makes no sense. They don't have the standard. The standard for someone who is pro-life, the standard is life begins at conception. It's a single human being. It's a unique individual human life from the moment of conception, scientifically speaking. No religion required. just common sense biology, even pro-choice people, 86% of biologists are pro-choice, but they all agree 98% of biologists say life begins at conception.
Mm.
We have facts based on our side. We have facts and we have consistency on our side. I don't want to be a part of a side that has neither. Doesn't have the facts nor the consistency. I don't want to have a headache trying to defend my position.
Oh, man. Hey, so I know I mentioned to you off camera that there's a popular page on Facebook called Catholics for Choice. I came across it because I was scrolling on my feed the other day and a couple days ago, and they posted something, and I actually want to read to you. They posted they posted like people sharing why they're pro-choice Catholics. Keep in mind, this is a page for Catholics who are supposedly pro-choice, who are saying, yep, it's okay to have an abortion. Catholics, by the way, which she literally just cited like a while ago why it's wrong. And she literally gave us not only scripture, but she gave us the catechism why. So, Catholics for Choice, right? Let me read you some of the ones that they have on there. Feel free to interrupt if you need to on some of these.
Interrupting every single one, to be honest. So, like, give me like, the ones that like irk you most, and you're like, what do you think about this?
This what triggered me so bad. I wanted to throw my phone. Mary had a choice, so others should too.
Interesting. You know what's so funny? I did a video about this. Is she had the choice before she conceived. She wasn't pregnant at the Annunciation. It was after she gave her yes and she gave her speech, right? That she said, then the Holy Spirit came over her and she conceived. You know what? We agree. We're pro-choice before another human being is involved. She wasn't pregnant. It's a false equivalency. She wasn't yet pregnant with Christ. That makes no sense.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that, and I was like, first off, that's blasphemous right there.
It's crazy.
It's insane. I was like, how dare you disrespect our mother like that? Like that's. I literally, that was out of all the ones that I saw in there, that was the one that I was like, are you joking me? And that's the
most pro-life thing you could ever point to, saying, guess what, Angel Gabriel, do you like to accept this? Highly favored one, the Lord has saw favor with you. You will conceive. She gives her consent to conceive. The Holy Spirit comes on top of her. She made the choice first, abortion or killing the child while she was pregnant, even though abortion wasn't even a thing back then, which is crazy to even read that into scripture. The choice was made beforehand. We're pro-choice in the beginning. Before another human being is involved, we're pro-choice. Have sex? Don't have sex. That's the choice. A child is a choice. This is not choosing. This is choosing between life and death. It's not choosing between chocolate or vanilla ice cream. That's a choice. This is a choice. A life is not a choice. Murder is never a choice.
Okay. The next one that I hated, absolutely. I don't even want to throw up. Why are you a pro-choice Catholic? Following the word of Jesus means respecting women and having compassion for everyone.
Except the unborn, apparently.
There you go.
Except the unborn. So stupid. I would love to have my dream debate would be me and Lila Rose versus the president and vice president of so-called Catholics for Choice. That would be my dream debate, and just crush them right in St. Peter's Basilica, having this debate and just absolutely crushing them, and then having Pope Leo XIV excommunicate this group. Like, to the point you cannot associate yourself with the Catholic Church. You got beaten so bad and you're so wrong. This entire group, and if you become a part of this group, you're excommunicated. That is my goal.
And not only that, though, but you actually cannot participate in communion at all.
Excommunicated.
Yeah, there you go. Like you literally like, and that's what people don't say. If you are pro-choice, you cannot participate in Holy Communion. Like, I'm sorry, like you just can't. You can't. Like that. Like that's not what Jesus stood for. So, anyways, the next one is because I believe in separation of church and state. That's why they said that they're pro-choice.
So if the preaching the gospel became illegal, you're not going to preach the gospel?
Apparently.
Didn't Jesus say, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, give to God what is God's? Last time I checked, you're not property of the government, you're property of God. You belong to God, you're a child of God. So I'm like, at that point, like, just go become not Catholic, go become something else. To be between the world and the Church of Christ here, you look like you're gonna be weak and you're gonna be falling to the world.
Here's another good one. Why are you a pro-choice Catholic? I don't believe in forcing my individual beliefs on those who may not agree, and as a healthcare professional, I understand how imperative preserving choice is for patient outcomes. Another crush out, y'all.
I'm practicing
prudence.
Gentleness. Practicing gentleness. I'm practicing being charitable to people.
This is not the street for it, sis.
They would be the type of people who would end up becoming dhimmis for Muslims. That's the most charitable thing I can say at this point. You would give up your faith if someone had a sword to your neck. That's what I'm gonna say.
There you go. Joe's like, I just threw my chair across that question.
Crazy. Absolutely wild.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. More purging is coming. The next one is, I believe in the dignity of human life, and I have enough pattern recognition to know that anti-abortion laws are the opposite of that. Pro-abortion legislation protects people who don't want to be pregnant as well as ones who do.
This is intense. I don't even know where to start with that one. Completely.
I mean, how contrary that says, I believe in the dignity of human life. You believe in the dignity of human life, but yet you're for you're for abortion. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I don't even.
And that was Anyways, Joe had a question, so I just wanted to share how crazy these claims were, but Joe had a question on here, and hopefully this was a lot. Well, first off, it says, oh, well, we already went through that one. Starch came in and said, why am I excommunicated? I just joined. Starch, come on.
Welcome in.
It says, can you touch on the topic that being pro-life isn't just for the unborn, but for the sick, elderly, and disabled, or even on the topic of capital punishment?
Yeah.
Chloe, take it away.
Yeah, so everybody, we believe in the dignity and the sanctity of human life from conception to natural death, right? And especially in the latter part where we talk about the sick, elderly, disabled, there's a new trend going around, which is basically assisted suicide, which the church speaks against assisted suicide, right? Just because someone has a sickness, the doctors can come in and take their life, right? Assist them in the dying. All of these things, whether being pro-life is basically being anti-playing God. I am not one to deal with human life, to create human life, to take away human life, to destroy human life. That's not my job. So the biggest thing what comes to mind when I think about this is being anti-assisted suicide, assisted physician suicide. And yeah, I think it was recently that Pope Leo was talking about being against the death penalty. So 100%. If there's a more specific question about something like that within that question, please comment it and let me know.
Joe, let us know if there's a specific one or if you're satisfied with Sister Chloe's answer on here. I know he said later on, he's like, sorry, I'm getting heated because he's talking about how, and then it said, if you don't want to be pregnant, don't throw yourself around. Yeah, that's basically what Chloe said.
I mean, listen, abstinence is the birth control that's 100% guaranteed. Abstinence is a very good birth control.
Right, absolutely. And I think, yeah, because everybody wants to, I feel like everybody wants to make it so easy, right? Where they're like, well, let's continue having sex and let's continue taking pills and, la-di-da-do, let's continue protection and all that. But it's just, I feel like everything's just really messed up right now. Like, especially the way that society is perceiving all of this. And like, now it's like, wow, like if you don't want to have a child, you could just go ahead and kill it. Like, that's so messed up, man. And like, the thing about it is, it's like, and and I do talk a lot of, I've told people that I was like, you cannot, like, how can you support something like that? Especially when I started looking a little bit more into it, because I'm a huge fan of Lila Rose as well, and the work that she's doing. But it's just, it baffles me. I was actually watching a debate of yours that you did with JP, and you had with like two other guys as well. The claims that these guys were making was just because these guys were pro-choice, and the claims that these guys were making, which it was so bad. I'm like, how is that even possible? And like, it's so weird because like they have like their own definitions of what pro-choice was. So like, I understand now when you said like imagine having to defend your position, but yet you can't even agree on what it actually is. Like, can you speak a little bit about that? Like, I'm sure you've seen a lot of that happen.
Yeah, so I've had debates where it would be like a 2v2, and obviously on the pro-life side, we have the same convictions, we have the same standards, we have the same morality. Pro-choice side, I feel like a lot of the times they're 2 versus 1, but with 2 different debates. So like, we're debating one pro-choicer on this certain issue, this certain standard, and then we're debating his partner a completely different debate because they have different standards, different moralities. So it's like 2 debates in one, but sometimes I feel like the pro-choice partners are then debating each other. It's like mass confusion is chaos because there's no standard. There's no agreement. It's a completely bunjumbled, broken pro-abortion movement. And guess what? For people who say tax the rich and the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, the same crowd that says that, what about your organizations, your rich organizations that make millions and millions of dollars each year killing people? You don't want to tax them? So like, inconsistency.
So do you think that, like, I guess my last question would be like, do you think that like within the pro-life movement, can you say for a fact that the standards are very, 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 very clear on what the belief is? It doesn't matter whether you come from a religious aspect or a non-religious aspect. Like, it's always going to be the same thing. It's always going to be the same beliefs. But you're saying that within the pro-choice, you're saying from their side, there's a bunch of disagreements. They can't all agree on the exact same thing, right?
Yep, they're a house divided. A house divided cannot stand, and they are. And the only thing that they can end up doing is just manifesting. But the more that they manifest, the more people see the evils of abortion and the inconsistencies and the problems with having a pro-choice thinking. the more people are gonna say, you know what, I can't defend this anymore. So that's the goal, right?
Okay. All right. So I think we're actually going to wrap this up. I think this was a great session. I'm very happy and I'm very blessed to
Definitely.
have you on here. This was a lot of fun. I actually really enjoy these conversations, and it's really interesting to get to hear this side
My
of things.
pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, can you let my audience know where can they find you? I'm gonna link down everything below, by the way, just all your social media, so they know where to find you. But just for those who are watching, where can we find you? And is there any last comments or remarks or anything that you want to say? Any last words? Just let us know.
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube, on Instagram. My YouTube channel is just Pro Life Chloe. Um, Instagram Pro Life Chloe, Twitter X, I guess they call it out, X/Twitter Pro Life Chloe. Like all my handles are Pro Life Chloe. If you guys ever wanna message me, email me, you can email me prolifechloe@outlook.com. I answer my messages there. And yeah, thank you for having me, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here with us, for sharing your knowledge, sharing the work that you've been doing. Everybody, please go ahead and please check out her channel, check out all the stuff that she's doing great for the kingdom of God. And again, this is a very important topic, and that's why I wanted to have her on here. I thought, who better to come and talk about this than literally somebody who does this for like a living. So why not? So thank you so much for sharing all of this. um Again, guys, please go and check her out. Make sure you also check out my social medias as well. I did start up a Patreon not too long ago, so I'm still kind of in the works of that. So go ahead and support if you guys want to. Other than that, thank you guys so much. This will not be the last time that I will have her on. Praise God. Just let us know what other things you'd like to hear about. Maybe there's some questions that maybe you're like, you know what, I wish they would have talked about this. Hit me up, let me know.
About the
And
Maronite Church,
there
if
you
you
go.
ever want to talk about the Maronite Church.
Oh, that'd be fun. That'd be fun to do. I am doing like a little, I'm working on something along those lines. So
Oh.
good thing you mentioned that. But anyways, guys, thank you guys so much. God bless. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you all have a blessed day, blessed night, wherever you guys are. I hope this was an edifying stream for you guys. Thank you.